Hello, good afternoon, everyone. I wanted to make a video today about our presidents, not Trump, but in general, because the midterms are coming up, and I'm questioning the system itself, not the elections. That makes sense. Like, the system which puts the people in and gives us a choice, quote unquote, for the election. And my theme for that is I'm going to go down from Trump to Biden to Obama to Clinton to the Bushes, all that Bush, Clinton. And I'm going to stop at the Clintons today about their scandals and corruptions, right? And then the theme is like, do you really think that your votes are going to actually matter or change anything? And that's like the question behind it. So we'll start off with Trump. Gets elected 2016, 2017. The first thing he does is he started the Space Force. And the historical connection with that is his uncle John Trump. I think his first name was John. He was one of the ones that stole all of Nikola Tesla's research and inventions. And then Trump starts the Space Force, and there's that weird family bloodline thing that goes on, and that happens with the Bushes too, the Clintons, the Obamas. They all have bloodlines that go back to the European royalty, mostly the British royal family. So first one, started Space Force, and his Uncle John stole all of Tesla's work, and we just see all the new directed energy weapons kind of stuff that they use in Venezuela just recently, January 3rd or whatever it was. All right. Second part, Operation Warp Speed. Gave the fascist powers to Big Pharma, said that we could develop a new vaccine within a year, and it doesn't even meet the original definitions of what a vaccine actually is. It's a genetic manipulation technology. It's not a vaccine. 2019, he tried to pull a coup in Venezuela in 2019 using, he contracted out the Silver Corporation out of Florida, ran by ex-Special Forces, a Green Beret, and a Navy SEAL. One of them didn't end up going. He was against it and said this idea is cockamamie and crazy. It ended up, I believe, 8 dead, 63 captured, or something like that. They got caught coming in on the beach. Okay. Then there's the whole Jared Kushner thing. Trump's daughter is married to Jared Kushner. The Kushner family is known for collecting sexual blackmail, just like the Epstein ring. Except, to my knowledge, the Kushners haven't used child sex stuff. Haven't used that type of fucked up honey trafficking. Let's see. Another thing, right now, everybody's in the middle of and pissed off his refusal and blocking the release of the Epstein files, and it's becoming more and more clear he was likely involved. As to what capacity, I don't know, but it seems pretty damn clear in some capacity he was involved with Epstein, with that whole ring. Whether he was victimizing young girls or not, or if he was just maybe like a go-between to get other people on film, or I don't know. I don't know. But I think it's foolish to assume that he had no wrongdoing in it at this point. Let's see. Also, during his first administration, he killed Qasem Soleimani, who was a very revered general from Iran that was pushing more connections and more military interconnections between the nations in the Middle East, and everybody left him in that region. And it was just unexpected, just randomly busts his ass with a missile. Let's see, he expanded the Ukraine war. He's supposed to stop it the first day, if you remember that. And what happened? Still more weapons, still all of the embezzlement by the top people in Ukraine, the generals and politicians, and then all the weapons that have disappeared and stuff, some which have appeared in the Mexican cartel hands from Ukraine, right? Strange. He fully supports the Israeli genocide of Palestine, and all the madness that Israel's doing over there. I mean, fuck, was it Yemen, Iran, Palestine, Syria, Somalia, Nigeria, Iraq. I'm pretty sure he has dropped bombs on every one of those nations. And if not, he's definitely had like secret teams there in support of whichever Al-Qaeda group are the good guys this time. Let's see. The 2026 coup in Venezuela just happened. Illegally invading and taking over a state, and it doesn't matter the propaganda behind it. Doesn't matter how bad of a figure Maduro is and his team. What he did was illegal, and it was against all standards internationally. And I'm pretty positive, like the whole that they're bringing in drugs. I'm pretty sure that is bullshit and a false accusation. And like I explained in videos earlier, every country has drug running operations. But to point out Venezuela as narco-terrorists and never say anything about Colombia, never say anything about Ecuador, and then not taking like the same kind of actions against Mexico, which I would be and am against, by the way, it's madness. Sorry, Venezuela is not a narco-terrorist state. They do not push it like the Colombians do, or the Ecuadorian gangs, or Mexico. Like, not even a tenth. I don't believe there would be even a tenth. Yes, and the recent countries attacked, I named them in, but here they're Iran, Somalia, Iraq, Yemen, Syria, Nigeria, and Palestine. And if it wasn't a direct attack from us, it was from our money, from our military support for Israel to do. Trying to take over Greenland right now. It's fucking ridiculous for national security implications. I think that's madness. If you really wanted to secure the nation, then you would get out all these wars, put our military across all of our seas and borders, and say and stay neutral. Say we're staying out of it, but fuck with us, and we're gonna hit you. That would be the way to actually do this effectively, not putting everybody in the 100-something, 200, 300 bases, whatever it is, all around the world, and keeping them there for the purposes of hegemony. He's fully supports Zionist Israel. He funds their wars, just like everybody before him, down to LBJ, because Kennedy was against it, and that was a big reason Kennedy was assassinated. They were a big part of it, the Israeli intelligence. And then there was like the weird stuff with like other stuff with the Epstein. Was Melania introduced to Trump by Epstein, and are they connected in that kind of way, in that circle? I don't know. Maybe it would make sense. And did he really blow Bill Clinton? That, I mean, my God, all to get power and money. Like, do you really want a psychopath like that would degrade himself, do anything like that just to get power, position, and money? All right, going down to the Bidens. This one's huge. Let's see. First stuff I have up top was during the Obama administration, Victoria Nuland, Biden, this guy named Geoffrey Pyatt, Robert Kagan, who is Victoria Nuland's husband, and Petro Poroshenko. They were involved in doing the overthrow of the Ukrainian government, the coup d'etat in 2014. That ended with I believe it was Poroshenko in power, which was then followed by Zelensky. And we see all the hell breaking out with that. And a lot of that had to do with like the Burisma scandal and all that, which we'll get to in a minute. The Bidens, during his vice presidency and the Obama era, they killed many in Iraq, Ukraine, Libya, Syria, Afghanistan, and they profited from the contracts that came after that and from doing all that. They made money doing that. Let's see, Biden, he blew up the Russian pipelines right at the beginning of the Ukraine-Russian war. Screwed over Europe with getting good, cheap natural gas, and is forcing them to go to U.S. companies, which are now providing a big chunk and are making a lot of money from the LNG. Not a coincidence. Not a coincidence. The Burisma scandal, Hunter Biden getting $50,000 a month for doing nothing in the energy industry, which he knows nothing about. And when all that stuff starts getting out, that's when Biden started to try to force, he did force the, one of the leaders of Ukraine at that time to drop the case and to replace the attorney general that was doing the charges, so that they could avoid any of the political scandal. Well, tough titty, it's there. It's another one. Let's see. We have the embezzling of campaign funds by both of his sisters. Valerie, I forget the other bitch's name, excuse me. And this is all about just the Biden family, not just Biden himself. Let's see. He pushed, so first, when Operation Warp Speed came up, him and Kamala Harris, but we'll never take, and so many Democrats, so many blue people, will never take a Trump vaccine, blah, blah, blah. And as soon as Biden was in office, he turns around, flips the script, pushes it, lockdowns, everything, right? Just everything. Bunch of lies. Bunch of crap and bunch of lies. Let's see, the startup health, that was a big graft with Stephen and Howard Krein. And Howard Krein is married to Ashley Biden, but they got hundreds of millions of dollars for that scandal. They stole from Native Americans, making a fake like Native American funds that they ended up embezzling. Which brother was it? Was it Frank or James? One of Biden's brothers died of brain cancer, I believe. And they did this whole thing, like getting funds to donate to cancer, this whole event. And they embezzled all the money. None of that money went to anything for cancer, not a single dime, right? So, like, that's how low they are. They use a family member's death to get these big donations, supposedly for cancer research and development and all that stuff, and then they just steal the money, right? Okay, how about Jill Biden? Joe Biden's wife. No, she's not a doctor, as you claim, as you seem to hint at Whoopi Goldberg as a medical doctor. She has a PhD, but it's not in fucking medicine. Jill Biden, Save the Children, non-government organization, NGO. All the human trafficking and stuff that have been involved. And a few weeks or a few months before the Guatemalan government decides to raid them in Guatemala for human trafficking, Joe Biden steps off, and she was like one of the head directors of the board, like she was the head of the board of directors or something like that, but she was like one of the top positions there. Let's see. Hunter Biden, good lord. Burisma scandal, real. Crackhead, duh. Deviant, duh. His laptop, yes, true. It's true. When his brother died, what did good old Hunter do? Well, he starts dating and banging his brother's widow and is together with her. And while he's with her, at the same time, he's dating a stripper, he's banging a stripper, knocks up a stripper, and then tries to deny that it's his child until he's forced to give DNA evidence, and all that stuff happens. good old Hunter. All kinds of hookers, indecent exposure to a minor it was like his niece or something like that. He's flashing his cock to his niece when they're doing like a video chat while hitting a crack pipe. I mean, come on. Fucked his brothers with, oh yeah, the nuclear technology, the dual technology espionage. It was with Bohai Investment and Rosemont Seneca. And we'll get to that in a little bit with all the Chinese connections and bribes at the bottom. Let's see. Frank Biden. Profiteering rings. The charter schools in Florida got millions during the Obama era with no experience towards it, but he's the VP's brother, so the quid pro quo, pay to play kind of thing came in, and he made billions for nothing, for being deceitful, for lying, for getting people meetings with his brother, right? Oh yeah, same one, Frank Biden, about 25 years ago, something like that, going 80 miles, hit and runs, kills a father, pretty sure he was drunk, and then for like 20 years, he's refusing and stopping like the from paying the orphaned family, and he's trying to not pay them for killing their father during a hit and run accident where he was most likely drunk. And he avoided doing it. And when the lawyer of the family tried to get into his bank account with Wells Fargo, he had emptied his bank account. No, I'm not going to pay you because I killed your husband or your father. Like, fuck off. He shouldn't have been walking on the road to go pick his daughters up from school. Like, that was his mentality. Let's see. The auto pen scandal. All the executive orders and the shit done with the auto pen. And it seems like it wasn't just people in his cabinet and deep state, but it seemed like it was former President Obama. That was a big part of that. Giving orders and stuff. Good God. It's getting windy out here. Let's see. Oh, yes. What about Amy Robach and the early Epstein cover-up? Like, that was all during those administrations, during the Obama era and stuff. And they are connected in some way to that. And I can't pinpoint it right now. Let's see, all the madness. And this is Obama era. So this had to do with Biden, Clinton, and Obama. Hillary Clinton, President Obama, President Biden, which was Vice President then. But what they did in Fallujah, monstrous. They bombed Libya, killed Gaddafi on false pretenses, saying he's some kind of monster, and, you know, screw the irrigation system that he's putting in the Sahara that was going to make the desert land into a fertile farming land that would feed half of Africa, and the gold-backed Africano currency he was going after, and making Africa independent from Western nations economically. Murdered him. They gave control of Libya to sects of Al-Qaeda after that, and they allowed a current slave trade that is still going on to happen there. They made slavery great again. Way to go, Biden, Obama, Clinton. Wow. James Hunter, involved in the third largest Ponzi scheme in the U.S. most of us haven't even heard of. I forget the name, but Alan Stanford was the guy who took all the hit, and he was interconnected with a company or some kind of organization with Biden's, and like there are all these lines leading up to that. So they're involved in this huge financial scandal with and had Alan Stanford take the fall. November 4th, 2010, they got a contract, and this was this is still under James Biden, got a contract to rebuild Iraq, like, I think, like 100,000 houses. They built nothing, and there's no money. No more money anymore. Now, back. Chinese connections and the bribes, besides, like, the huge diamond and all the other stuff. You had their company, Bonai Bonai Investment something from China and Rosemont Syndica combined. Rosemont Syndica was created by people from the organized crime family, the Bulger family, Whitey Bulger's brother, I believe. Chris Hine, John Kerry's stepson, Devin Archer, Hunter Biden, and they went over there with all this corruption, the quid pro quo stuff, got some billion-dollar contract, which is bigger than any like most of the major banks in the U.S. that have even gotten contracts with the Chinese at that time. All this quid pro quo, all this organized crime, dirty stuff going on. So many connections there to explore. Biden, that was Biden. That wasn't even all of it. That wasn't all of it for the Trumps either. Because there's just lists. There's lists that you can just go down and confirm. We'll go to Obama. I believe him to be closeted homosexual. I think Michelle Obama is actually Michael. Big Mike. Saw that dick swinging on that Ellen DeGeneres show. Thing had an elbow in it. By God. Doesn't matter. If, really, I don't care. Except for the fact that, if it's true, which I believe it to be, this guy is lying about his whole life. His whole life is a deception, and he led the country for 8 years as the president. As the president. He's been lying the whole time. There's the stuff where the CIA has documents where they wanted Obama to become president before anybody knew his name because it would be easier to manipulate the public into the madness of the wars in the Middle East coming from a black man. And guess what? Obama went from 2 wars to 7 during his 2 administrations. Coincidence? Nah. No. And then during all that time, Bush to Obama, all the way up until we exited Afghanistan. Remember, we went from very, very low, almost 0% of all the heroin and opium from Afghanistan to it rising to a huge amount. I think it got up to like 90% of opiates were coming out of Afghanistan. And then you have like the Sackler family who started getting all those opiates, creating the OxyContin epidemic all during that time frame, right? It's not a coincidence. There has to be connections there some way. It can't be coincidence. Let's see. Oh, Russiagate involvement. It wasn't just Hillary Clinton. Obama was involved in the Russiagate thing with all the false accusations. And I just bombed on Trump. I do not like that guy. But Russiagate was a hoax. It was bullshit. That was a lie. Now, Russia didn't affect the elections, at least not in any means that could actually mean anything and change the election. Like, not at all. But had Trump over the years have investments receiving money from Russia? Maybe. Who knows? I wouldn't doubt it. But I don't know that. Let's see. Obama, he's being accused and by legitimate researchers and investigative reporters that he was one of the main ones running the Biden regime from the shadows as Joe Biden and his dementia kicked in and he couldn't operate as a president. I mean, how many times on stage you see that weird face and you're just like, oh, you just shit his pants and forgot exactly what he's like everything you're supposed to talk about and say. And how many times you go off on these weird rants, right? On this weird nonsensical bullshit. The handling of the Benghazi attack in 2012 was really shitty. And that was that was Obama, Clinton, Biden, terrible things. Fucking terrible things. Let's see, the IRS scandal of the 2012 election where they politically were forcing or pushing the IRS to put extra scrutiny on conservative groups and go after them while ignoring probably their embezzlement and crimes, right? They're accusing other people of stuff that they're actually doing. AP phone record scandal, Keystone XL pipeline controversy. There was the controversy with Obamacare insuring illegal immigrants. driving the price up for American healthcare even more and screwing the citizens. And this is just a scandal. So I'm not... Everybody should have access to healthcare, in my opinion. Everybody should have it. It shouldn't just be for the ultra rich, and you shouldn't, for like has most Americans experience, be in a lifetime of debt and be screwed over for the next 20, 30 years of your life because you had one medical emergency. It's crazy to me. Well, sequestration, the Budget Control Act of 2011, another one. Let's see. Obama tried to bypass Congress with executive orders over stuff about gun control, especially in the environment, especially concerning Operation Fast and Furious. They allowed over 2,000 American military arms to go through these smuggling groups, get into the hands of cartel, and some of those guns ended up killing a U.S. Border Patrol agent. And then they were trying to say, gun control, lock it down, after they're the ones who did it. You sent the guns there on purpose. You let them there on purpose. Eric Holder, Barack Obama, Biden, Clinton, screw you guys. And then, let's see. Let's give thanks to Edward Snowden for our NSA PRISM surveillance system and all the stuff that came out from Snowden and WikiLeaks and Assange. One, it's illegal, and it's used to spy on Americans. Mostly, vast majority, used to spy on Americans to control us and to record every second of our lives and use it against us any way they can in order to control us. Welcome to the NSA. Now to the Bush family. Good Lord. 2 presidents to cover here. And I have a page that's about this much. And there's probably like 10 of these pages. I picked some of the juiciest stuff. So we'll start with George Walker Bush, the Jr., the Lesser. Let's start off with 9/11 and the cover-ups from 9/11 with the 9/11 Commission and all that bullshit. Giving Dick Cheney and Halliburton the no-bid contracts to go build Iraq and Afghanistan before we even invade and blow them up. False accusations about WMDs to go to Iraq after that. All that good stuff. 9/11 was an inside job of the Western intelligence agencies with Israeli intelligence. And God knows who's else. Organized crime elements, probably banking elements. You had the billions and billions that were shorted from the airlines, like the morning that it was going to happen. Somebody made billions, and then the change of the insurance policy on the World Trade Center by, what was that guy's name? What was that Zionist bastard's name? That was the owner, but he got like double or triple because for a terrorist attack. Happened, a few months before 9/11 happened. They knew it was coming. Bush, again, Bush family. The Abu Ghraib prison abuse. The Valerie Plame affair. U.S. attorney firings, like the political firings of U.S. attorneys to stack it in their favor. Hurricane Katrina response and martial law was really shitty, how we did that. Warrantless wiretapping in 2005. The creation of the Patriot Act after 9/11, all that stuff with the NSA. All for us. All for us. If it wasn't, then 90% of it wouldn't be focused on the American people, spying on us. Right? Afghan war based on lies, obviously. Afghan-Iraq. The likely election scandal in Florida, where that was the determining state. His brother Jeb Bush was governor at the time, and it seems like he stole the election from Al Gore. Godly, not that I would have been happy with Gore, because he's a piece of shit too, but you just got to call it out for what it is. I'm just calling out the scandals. Let's see. Oh, Bush family. I think since Prescott, maybe even before, they've been very close friends with the Bin Laden family for decades. Part of them making billions and billions of dollars was their oil work with the Bin Laden family. And the Bin Ladens even stayed at their estate in Texas. Years before. They were friends. let's see, Military Commissions Act. It's another shitty thing that they did. They created the Department of Homeland Security after 9/11, all that stuff, which was, I mean, it's a big graft and it's a big way to try to keep the American population under control and obedient. Bush put in the SWIFT system, which is the huge international transfer fund system that BRICS is going after now, and BRICS will eventually be just as big or bigger than them because of our foreign policy that's happening. And the foreign policy that has remained the same from at least Reagan up. Reagan, Bush, Clinton, Bush, Obama, Trump, Biden, Trump. Foreign policy stayed the same throughout. Go over there, take out the enemies that we created decades before and made into enemies after they're supposed to be our friends and supporting them. And then once their use is out, then we're going to go kill them all and take their shit. Saddam Hussein. How about that? Oh, the Mujahideen. Anybody seen Charlie Wilson's War? The movie? That's a true story. Mujahideen became Al-Qaeda. And then all the other terrorist groups that spawned from ISIS, all of them, right? That's created by us and the Israelis. The United States, the Israelis, and Great Britain. Those groups are created by us. And we were giving the Mujahideen, the precursor to Al-Qaeda, the handheld missile systems that they needed to destroy Russian helicopters and other big equipment. So in order to bankrupt Russia and make them economically collapse in the USSR. And it was like Russia's Vietnam, basically. And it worked. Okay, going back into it. How about Bush Sr., George Herbert Walker Bush? Golly. CIA, some people believe he was in on the Kennedy assassination. I don't know about that. Plausible. There is a pretty damning photo. You have Iran-Contra. George Herbert Walker Bush was all in the middle of that, right up with Reagan, right up with before Clinton, and into Clinton, Oliver North. Iran-Contra. We're gonna flood American streets with crack cocaine, create an epidemic, flood it with arms and violence, control the pop culture narrative around hip-hop to push that as being cool and legitimate and the only way that you can get out of that situation, right? While building the private prison system that we see today. And then, of course, all like the 3-strike rules and all that stuff comes up. And Biden was all for all those, too. He was all about that, backing it as senator. Because he's been a senator since, 76 or something like that? And, yeah, and all the racist comments he made against keeping people segregated and all that stuff during that time. That was Biden. But anyways, Iran-Contra, controlling Latin America, overthrowing all those countries, funding whatever black projects they are with all the drugs that they're bringing in. Reagan, Bush are pushing it through Mena, Arkansas, where Bill Clinton was governor at the time. There's a whole, it's just murdering Gary Webb for bringing it out. CIA covering all of that stuff. The DEA had involvement. The FBI had involvement. All of them corrupt. All of them. And let's see, it wasn't Prescott Bush, but I think it was his dad, who profited. He was a war profiteer during World War I, and there was W.A. Harriman and Company. There's a whole thing about that. Let's see, and then like during the Bush, George Herbert Walker Bush, like during his tenure at the CIA and all that stuff, they helped Saddam Hussein rise into power, and then made Saddam Hussein our enemy years later under his son, killed him, and took over his palace, which apparently was built on top of some major archaeological find that likely had maybe ancient technologies or some ancient wisdom that the governments don't want us to know about. There was something there. And then we put all of our military men and bases all across the pipelines, take over the oil supply. And our oil from Iraq actually went down. We actually got less oil from Iraq during and after the war. Guess who got all the oil? Israel. Their oil, after we invaded Iraq and Afghanistan and all that, 76 to 80% is like in that range of Israeli oil was coming from Iraq. And that whole war was pushed on us from Israel too. They had a lot to do with it. Israel had a lot to do with 9/11 and getting us in there. Because they're not two separate countries. They're one acting like two different. It's all one big system now. The banking, intelligence, deep states within the global governance system, like it's all one big entity now. They all screw each other over and fight for a captain's chair or fight to get the most of what they can, but they all work towards the same stuff. And then, of course, with the Bush family, you have to mention Skull and Bones. There are Skull and Bones guys. And there's all that weird secret society stuff, and John Kerry was in Skull and Bones as well with George Herbert Walker, or not with George W. Bush, and all the shit that goes along with that. You know, Kerry was heading up the Senate or the special congressional hearing about Iran-Contra in the late 80s, I think 87 or 88, something like that. Like, they're all intertwined and involved. All of them. Scum of the earth. Clinton family. Oh, boy. This one's a big one. How about I'll just start top to bottom, no particular order. We have the hiring of Sandy Berger and having her with the secret document, the secret classified documents theft from the National Archives that she did. Hillary Clinton had the interventions for companies that gave big donations to the Clinton Foundation afterwards when they were in legal trouble. She intervened for them, and then Clinton Foundation gets millions and millions later on, right? Bill Clinton repeals the Glass-Steagall Act in 96, 98. Don't remember the date, but that led to everything that caused the financial and real estate bubble pop, the collapse of 2008. And if it wasn't for Mexican drug cartel money in the banks at that time, that likely would have been a complete economic failure. Cartels that we've been working with forever that we helped create. U.S. organized crime and intelligence helped make and create the cartels into what they are today. Very good history about that. Very well traced by a few excellent researchers. Type it in. Check it out for an hour or two. It's fascinating. See what you come up with. Let's see. Yeah, Clinton family. Iran-Contra. Huge in Iran-Contra. Bill was the governor of Arkansas when the little airport in Mena, Arkansas was the main airport being used by the CIA to ship in cocaine and other drugs, ship weapons back into Latin America, and pay for the right-wing paramilitary units to throw coups in all the countries, right? Honduras, Nicaragua, El Salvador, Guatemala, Colombia. There was some, not quite the same, but there's some shit in Panama. Pretty much every country in Central America, right? And Latin America. And so they, in order to push out any kind of communist or Russian, push out any of their influence, they start a crack cocaine epidemic in the United States, flood the streets with guns, build an entire private prison system for this, making new laws to imprison all these other people. And that there was a big control system over the direction of pop culture, especially in hip hop, in support of minorities, selling drugs and using violence and stuff to have an opportunity to actually make money, right? And actually try to live the American dream, so to speak. Let's see. The Monica Lewinsky scandal. It's an easy one. We have like all the Clinton kill lists. I don't know if all of it's true, but Vince Foster, Don Henry, Kevin Ives, like those definitely. If you like see the evidence and you say there's no way the Clintons had any involvement, like I'm sorry, that means that you are super indoctrinated and you love politicians and you're too blind to see outside of our political system. I hate them all, and that's why I'm bombing them all, because I hate them all. They're disgusting. Clinton Foundation, God, everything. You know, the stuff in Haiti, it's basically like their big slush fund, their quid pro quo. We'll do this for you. You have to make this major donation to us. And because it's a foundation, they don't have to pay any taxes. They get to keep all the money. And it never goes to anything. All that money the Clinton Foundation got to rebuild in Haiti, where they build like 3 shitty houses, said fuck you to the rest and embezzle the rest of the money. 2015, you had Mideast dictators giving big donations, and it matched exactly the amount for some for weapons being transferred there from beforehand. Not suspicious at all, huh? Epstein. Just turn on the news. I don't need to say any, like, I guess I have to. That's probably why Gary Webb got murdered, because Epstein was involved in Iran-Contra too, along with Adnan Khashoggi, with the arms deals. But I assume that Gary Webb probably started catching on to the human trafficking stuff that was involved. And we know how Bill Clinton loves those human traffickers and them little girls. So that's probably why Gary Webb got murdered. When he was writing, after he wrote Dark Alliance, made it into a book, and then he was doing more research and to come out with more stuff. Found in his hotel room with 2 shotgun blasts to the head, and it was a suicide. Okay. Let's see. Oh yeah, they invited Epstein to the White House. Epstein paid for the refurbishment of the White House during the Clinton administration, all the times on the airplanes, all the times in the island, and the other places, New Mexico, place in Florida, New York, God knows what else. So much stuff with Epstein, I can't even cover it. Rape and sexual assault cover-ups. Hillary Clinton had a lot to do with covering up all the nasty shit that Bill Clinton did. And I'll just name a few. Forget the Woman from 1978. That's the first one. You had Paula Jones. You had Kathleen Wiley. You had Juanita Broderick. All this stuff. And, all this stuff, good, legitimate accusations. Never went anywhere because the FBI and all those guys, they were either getting paid off or threatened, whatever it was, but they didn't do what they were supposed to do to get Bill Clinton with that, because Clinton was powerful politician. You have Whitewater and their financial contributions. Big scandal that was that. You have all the shit that happened in Benghazi. You have the war hawk foreign policy of the Clintons that was always there, stayed the same with all the presidents. 2016 funneling of state party money for Hillary's campaign, and she did that in order to steal the election from Bernie Sanders, and they cut him out so bad, like Bernie Sanders would have beat Hillary for the primary. He was gonna win it, and they screwed him out of that. You have private emails of sensitive government info, all the big email scandal with Hillary Clinton, all that shit. Bill Clinton, he's a Vietnam draft dodger. which I don't blame him for. Just calling it out during that time. Like, I just calling it out. But I'm not going to go to war. I don't care if you draft me. I'm not supporting a war. I'm not doing it. Because every war that, especially now, they're based on lies. And I'm not going to go die. So some Dick Cheney and some Halliburton can make billions based off of lies, off of a terrorist act that they probably had something to do with. Sorry. Fuck you, Dick Cheney. Fuck you, Bush. Fuck you, Clinton. All you guys. Fuck Donald Rumsfeld. Donald Rumsfeld, Cheney, and Bush, like the big three during that in the U.S. side. Let's see. You have the FBI and ATF, the big murdering of the Branch Davidians in Waco, Texas, in the mid to late 90s. That was a huge thing, and the feds fired first. And they said, oh, they started a fire from the inside. As they're saying that, they're on BBC. On the BBC News, it shows a tank driving into the building and blasting a flamethrower and killing, like, over 70, maybe 80, something like that, women and children. Wonderful. So sweet of you, Hillary and Bill. You have the illegal loan that David Hale was pushed Susan McDougal to make, or that's David Hale claims that he was pushed by the Clintons to give to Susan McDougal for something. I forget what it was, but I remember a little bit. You have the Battle of Mogadishu, the genocide in Rwanda. This is all Clinton. The omnibus crime bill, the extension of the death penalty for like crimes that were like nonviolent, like certain like having certain quantities of drugs. There's the White House FBI files controversy in 1996, covering their own ass for criminal investigations on them, being able to get access to the FBI files, all that good stuff. You had the Chinese contributions for the 96 re-election campaign for Bill Clinton. Connections to the Biden. Everybody's starting to work with the Chinese now. All the politicians are. This is supposed to be America first, while they're destroying our nation and giving all the power to China, who, according to the Agenda 21 document, is going to set up the structure of the global world governance system. Let's see. You have the Afghanistan and Sudan missile strikes in 1998. In Sudan, it was the Al Shifa pharmaceutical factory, and it's claiming because they're going after terrorists, ones that we created within the last 20 years of that event happening, in order to defeat the Russians. And all of a sudden they become enemies because they want to govern themselves and not be a colony of the U.S., I guess. I don't know. Let's see. 1999. Oh, here. They lied about Saddam building WMDs in 1998 as well. And then that was carried on by Bush. We invaded eventually. You see how they're all starting to connect together with all this stuff? Not just Epstein, but especially in foreign policy and war, financial crimes, all that kind of stuff. They all do the same shit, and most of them are connected in some way through that web. We have the 1999 NATO bombing campaign of Yugoslavia. They and they also bombed the Chinese embassy in Belgrade. Bill Clinton's last day pardons for criminals. People like Mark Rich, very involved in the whole Epstein network. He's a total piece of shit. Yeah, all those pardons. All the presidents do that now, though. They all do these last day or two. They sign these pardons and hardly ever get noticed. And it's usually to pardon the worst pieces of shit in existence. Campaign finance scandals. The Citizens United versus FEC Supreme Court. And then that, after that, corporations and unions were allowed to spend unlimited on political campaigns. Meaning that money controls politics, not the people's votes or the public's needs or the public decisions. Money and power. That's what happened. Just recently, they're in contempt of Congress for not showing up to testify about the Epstein scandal, refusing to testify. You have Hillary Clinton's connections to the healthcare industry in Israel, huge thing. They're fervent, super supporters of Zionist Israel as well. All behind this, they're all for all these wars, Democrats and Republicans alike. Yeah, the 2010 WikiLeaks. Thank you, Julian Assange, when they were spying on UN officials illegally. I mean, they wanted fingerprints, DNA, iris scans, bank account, like all this stuff, totally illegal. All that stuff they were doing, totally illegal. They also, Hillary lied about weapons of mass destruction's intelligence in Iraq. She hates Iran, and when Obama got elected, was she Secretary of State, and in the Obama administration, she followed Bush-era policies for all that. And then we have the Russiagate hoax, huge. Hillary Clinton's involved, huge in that, and it seems like Obama was too. But again, I hate Trump. I didn't vote for him. I never would. But Russiagate was a hoax. It was a big lie, and it was one of those things that keeps the people divided. It's a real president. It's not a real president. He got in by hope, blah, but keeps people divided, looking away from the big issues like what we're talking about now. Right? That's just down to Clinton. All those scandals, all that stuff has already been confirmed by people way better than me at this kind of thing. Way better. And that's the theme. Why? Why? If our choices are Trump and Clinton, or Trump and Biden, or Obama McCain, who is a complete piece of shit. I'm glad you're dead. Bush Gore, Clinton, and Ross Perot, who was the third party, and who was the Republican he was going to, I forget, but they're all the same. So as the midterms are coming this November, think about that and think, is your vote really going to do anything? Is it really going to do anything? Or do we have to change the system, the voting system, and the way that people are allowed to get airtime, right? Because my idea would be all political contributions to all campaigns would be put in a huge pool, and every single person who's running for office, they get the same airtime, and as they're eliminated going up the election process, you know, each person who is favored and wins out from the last one, they get more and more airtime until it's the last two, and they're competing over and debating over who should be whatever position it is, president, whatever, right? Senator, congressman, whatever. That would be my structure. All political donations meant for campaigns, all going to the same thing. You have all your candidates. You start out. Everybody gets their 3 minutes to explain who they are, what they stand for, what policies they would want to enact or to change or whatever. Whoever gets eliminated out, then the next group. It's like regular season, quarterfinals, semifinals, finals kind of structure. But doesn't matter where the funds come from, all campaign donations split equally between everybody that is legitimately running for whatever position it is. That could stop a lot of the scandals. I'd get rid of the Electoral College, because that's a scandal in itself. And I'd go to majority vote, Democratic majority vote, because Electoral College is bullshit. But that's the big question. Do you really trust that your vote will mean anything? Will your vote actually even count? Or will a 2020 happen again? Some election fraud happens. Will it really count? If you don't think it is, then maybe voting isn't the issue. Maybe the structure of our voting and our election system is the problem. And maybe that's what you should be pushing for. That should be the change you're pushing for. A more legitimate and a more clear voting and election system. A transparent, a real transparent system. I would do it on blockchain. So there can be no ifs, ands, or buts. And it would be through technologies of apolitical, like people like me, but that are techies, that just hate all politics, but they were able to make a great voting machine or something based on blockchain that can't be manipulated or changed or whatever. Because that did happen in 2020. And wasn't just the truckloads of paper ballots come in at 3 in the morning. There's all kinds of fuckery about. But anyways, that's the video today, guys. I hope you enjoyed. And that's dirt from George Herbert Walker Bush all the way up to Trump, every president in between. Why are we letting these monsters have power and control? It is insane. Stop voting for personality. Stop voting based on a one-party system that that so many people still believe is a two-party system. It's not. Okay? Vote with your head, vote with your heart. Do your research and make it count. And if you don't think it's going to count, then take actions to change the system and to change our government as a whole, because our government's disgusting right now. It's not the greatest in the world. It's the most corrupt in the world. The most prolific in human trafficking, especially of children. Biggest goddamn drug trafficking network in the world. Arms trafficking. Graft, waste, scandals everywhere, left, right. Doesn't matter what side you go to. All this war. And the child trafficking really gets to me. All the pedophilia. I mean, hell, look at Dennis Hastert. He was the Speaker of the House or the Senate Majority. I think he was Speaker of the House for years. And he still stayed in that position after he'd been known and taken to court and I believe convicted of raping little boys. Alright? These are the monsters that they're putting in with the illusion of choice. In my eyes, it's an illusion of choice. You choose between cancer in your ass or cancer in your balls. Or ovaries, whichever one you have hanging there. Why choose between cancers? Why not look for something better? Build something better. That's our responsibility. It's our responsibility. Because the government ain't going to do it. Corporations ain't going to do it. Banks ain't going to do it. It's up to us. And we have to put them in check.